Oh boy, in the last 48 hours, it seemed hella insane. Now, uh, let me rename this real quick. Oh, can I rename? Oh yeah, I can rename it here, right? All right, I was watching this one video, and it was this dude. I'm gonna just call him G. And so G was talking mad. He was just talking crazy. He was just talking crazy about these two these two black women. And they was talking about how they was talking about how the PlayStation and Xbox, I don't know, like racist is like kind of a strong word to sit up there and say like they didn't care about like the content creator, like the black content creators, especially black female content creators. And so G in the video was talking like all this, like, first of all, this dude is a college student. So he's in his, like, he's between 18 and 24. And with the whole thing, with the whole thing about privilege, with like young white male privilege and everything, it's not, because some people used to say like, oh, I'm not rich. I had to struggle, so I'm not privileged type narrative. But it does not necessarily have to do with any financial incentives that's being thrown your way. The whole thing is like not recognizing when certain things benefit you or not. It's just like I'm not like a disabled person. I mean, my knees kind of hurt. I probably got carpal tunnel because I'm not, but it's not on the same thing of like I need a wheelchair to use a ramp. So living life not thinking about using a ramp or like using like a cane to get around, it's like I'm oblivious to what other people that are handicapped have to struggle with. So this dude is like just talking like sarcastically about these black women. Now, of course, some of the things they were saying was kind of like, just give me a free Xbox and a PlayStation, and I don't have enough views on my channel to really get this, so people could like, so I could basically give them free advertisement. Some people had like what, like 500 subscribers. Like, that's not enough. But what G was failing to mention is black people in these type of spaces that have to hear sarcastic racial remarks, and then he prefaced in the video that racism is bad. But in the video, it was like, I mean, he was like going in to a certain degree on these two women. And then prior to that video, he went on one dude that's always like he's always like talking shit all the time, and he's black. So you got these two black people like basically making videos back to back that you're like completely heating up on. And it's just like, now for me, for instance, this is just me. I have a slight problem hearing white people criticizing black people. I do. I'm gonna be honest with that. Why? Because it's just not a regular criticism how I'm looking at it. It's more like there's a little extra that you're putting on it because of something else. And what that something else is like that person is a black person that they're talking about. So it's like I'm looking at it like it's not just like I just don't like this person, I don't like this person. But it's like you're masking what you're really mad at. Like I said, there's a more of like a reason for you to go a little extra hard on this person. So like I said, that's just me. So you talked about two content, like, well, three really, because there was two in the video and then one, the separate video about the dude. And so he failed to realize exactly what they're saying. Like when they was talking about the Miles Morales game and they were saying like, I would buy it because he's like, well, people will buy it because Miles is black. And one dude in the comment section was basically like, to do that is actually stupid. And it's like, when you constantly, like, okay, the video game industry, and it's another thing, where they were saying how the video game industry is built and created for and by white men. But then he threw in the fact that like Nintendo and some other companies are Japanese or Asian. What he failed to realize is this. These companies, not all the time, but enough times cater to white audiences. Like Final Fantasy. We'll take Final Fantasy for instance. Loved the series. Wasn't too fond of 15. But Final Fantasy, the series itself, is like great. I take a lot of inspiration from Final Fantasy. Been playing it ever since 7, back in like 97 or probably 98 when my friend had it. But anyway. But it's like none of their characters, generally speaking, look like the people that created it. Cloud didn't look Asian. Like I would say, since I was playing Final Fantasy, Cloud didn't look Asian. Maybe dude from 8 was Squirrel. Maybe you could consider him Asian, but he still looked like a white dude. Then you had Final Fantasy 9. You know what I'm saying? Like none of the lead characters look like the people that made it. So they're catering to a mostly white audience. Even with anime. I remember like this was back in 08. And it was like some type of documentary saying the reason why that anime characters have round eyes, because they said the round Western eyes look friendlier. And so I remember me and my mom was like kind of looking like, so they're saying they're like almond shaped eyes are not friendly. I think Asian eyes are like very beautiful, like the almond shaped type look. So you're basically saying that your eyes are not beautiful? That's bullshit. So what he was saying, like, yes, these companies in like, like Nintendo and whatnot, they're not white, but they cater to a white audience. So when you're a black person, like I said, he fails to realize, like going back to the handicap argument, he fails to realize because he's not black, you constantly keep seeing these images of white people doing some cool shit. You're basically looking at it like you're feeling left out. And you don't have the power to make your own shit. Or you can't easily talk to these companies and be like, could you like make a black lead character or a black female character? You see what I'm saying? In the context of these two individuals that were saying this. They feel left out. So when you do see a black a character on screen like Miles Morales or Marcus Holloway from Watch Dogs, you jump on it a lot faster because it's like at least somebody looks like me or somebody I know. The representation is there. And I remember like a long time ago, this was like in 98, and it took them a while to put Usher the singer on, I think Teen People or some shit like that, because they was like that. This is what I've heard, that they didn't think that magazine would sell because they put a black person on the cover. But it's like black people have money to buy your magazine. And even like I was making this joke a long time ago, I did a Photoshop image of like People Sexiest Man. I put like a Klans member on the cover and saying this because it just seemed racist. Like the first black dude they put on the cover was like Denzel Washington back in 96, and then all these years later until recent history been all white dudes. And it's like now they're starting to put like Michael B. Jordan or John Legend on the shit. Because it just looked like for that long, it looked like, you know what, you didn't think this would sell? I mean, you see how Black Panther sold, and it's been like a hit. And so this whole notion that black people just don't buy stuff or don't have money, it's like, okay, since when? You see what I'm saying? But like even those chicks, even though it's like we're asking for like free shit when it's like, well, they didn't warrant it. But it was more of why they were saying it than what they was wanted to use it for. Like, just give me free shit. It's like, yeah, I got a problem with just asking for like free shit when it's like, you know what I mean? It's like you got Marcus Brownlee. He got a PlayStation, but a large majority of the ones they was giving systems to were the majority were white dudes. So you can't seriously sit up there and say they was wrong or just because you disagreed with it. And that's what G was basically talking about. So I was like basically going in on a comment section. And then when I look at the comment section today, because I was going to kind of refresh, you know, myself to see like, yeah, what was he saying, so I could, you know, hear his little bullshit argument. I see the video has been taken down. I don't see it. I don't see it no more. So I'm like, and that's the problem. That is the problem with the whole thing. Because he knew he was wrong. He was being a little sarcastic little asshole, thinking he knew everything. And I don't want to pull rank on people. But when you're like, I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to pull rank hard on people. But when you're that young, it's like, it's just best to just just sit back and just listen before you start speaking. You see what I'm saying? Because some of the stuff that you're saying and doing is just like you're just going off of how you feel. And like, this is an attack on white men and straight white men, even though I kind of question him because, I mean, anyway. But it's not like, it's not an indictment. It's just more of an educational process. Like, like I said, I don't know. I never had any, like, people, like, you know, people with, like, physical challenges in my life. So, I wouldn't know. But if somebody was saying, like, yeah, it's hard for me to, like, get around because of this, that, and the other, I'm not just going to be like, oh, you're whining and you're, you know, complaining, you know, you're virtue signaling and all that shit. I would actually be an adult and listen to what this person has to say. Because what if he was like, there's no like physical handicap leaders or something like that. You see what I'm saying? And some people would be like, okay, you got Professor X. I think he was mostly in a wheelchair as far as I remember. And then there was a character in the Extreme Ghostbusters back in like what, 99, that was, he was in a wheelchair. But you can't just use those two and be like, okay, now it's done, shut up and just be happy about it. I mean, maybe this person wants to see others in some cool shit. And then it's like I guess I think it's the Oracle in Batman, one of the Batman games. So it's just like, okay, yeah, but you know what I'm saying? It just leaves other people out and it's dismissive to just be like, oh, you got these two, now shut the fuck up. I mean, Professor X is like one of the biggest dudes. You see what I'm saying? Like, okay, yeah, but maybe this person don't like Professor X. You know what I'm saying? So it's just dismissive to be like, and then this whole thing at the end, the one lady was like, this country doesn't like us, white people don't like us. She was saying some real shit. Like, I mean, you live in this world, especially now with the whole like Black Lives Matter, George Floyd, and people getting mad over a free theme that they don't have to get about Black Lives Matter. And you constantly seeing these images, the one black person in the movie that dies. You constantly seeing this shit. You have the tendency to think that there's a segment of white people that have problems with black people. I said this in one of my videos. Like, when you write a story, this is your fantasies come to life. And when you basically use a black person, just a one lone black person in your movie or video game, and you have them kind of represent all of blackdom, and then you kill them off, it sends the message that the person writing it and creating this story is like putting this is the last black person alive and I'm gonna kill them off. It sends the signal like, this person wants us dead. It's like that. It's the same thing like when they was talking about Neil Druckmann, the dude who made The Last of Us. Oh, he's so liberal and liberal Hollywood and all this and the left. But then it's like, okay, how liberal is the dude for real? Because I mean, as far as I remember, he killed off the two black brothers in the first one, and then the black chick, she was a black lady. She was like a military person or a doctor or some shit. Then he killed her off. So you have the lone three black people in the game of some type of significance. He kills them. And then in the second one, what I heard, he killed off the one black person in that. So it's like, okay, how liberal is the dude? And then for him to do that sends a message to me that he has a problem with black people. So anybody that has like this, like one black person and I'm gonna kill them off type thing in their movies, what is that? How am I supposed to look at it like? It's just like the whole thing with Finn in Star Wars. I'm thinking, and a lot of people was thinking, he was going to be the lead dude. And he like, oh, they gave the brother a lightsaber, oh, rah, 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 and people was mad. And then it was like Rey was really the leader. It was like, now white women little white girls could be like, oh, I got a leader and everything. And it's like, that's cool. I have no problem with that. I don't give a fuck how like a Mary Sue she is. I mean, if it's like making like like little girls like feel like I'm gonna dress up like Ray for Halloween, I'm not gonna get mad and be like, oh, they're taking something away from me, even though they took Finn away. So what I did was like, fuck it, and I started writing movies to Black Dragon #8 Genesis. Because at first, for the longest time, I was like, I'm not gonna write a movie to a Black Dragon #8. And then I saw that Finn shit. I was like, nah, nah. I just had to do something about that because it just felt like, and everybody was saying they turned him into a slave, and John Boyega in Recent History was talking about it, and it just put a bad taste in your mouth. Like, damn. But like I said, I could recognize, like, if girls could look up at Ray and be on some real shit, that's all well and good for them. But it's just like I see how certain companies get down is, and they look at it like they don't see a problem with it because they don't live in that space. So like with dude like G coming off of like talking about these women and not looking at the whole thing of why they're saying what they not forget about what they're asking for. It's just like I said, it's just like, okay, you asking basically for free shit. But it's like, why are you doing like what are you really, what's the real message behind why they're saying what they said? And to the point, like I said, I'm not saying because of me, but I was sending a lot more messages. I don't see the video up no more. I mean, hell, look at it. Growing up, if it wasn't like an NBA game, which I'm doing like an NBA, like the NBA floor that I named this texture, but if it wasn't an NBA game, the only game at the time that existed with a black person in it was Skate from Streets of Rage 2 and a game called Global Gladiators. It was two friends. It was a white friend and a black friend, and that was it. Mostly everything else was like, characters like Sonic or Rayman or Dynamite Hitty or something. And then even like with movies, like we like the Ninja Turtles or something. You see what I'm saying? And it's like, I wasn't into the Power Rangers, but they didn't make a black lead Power Ranger until like years after the one that came out in '93. And even from what I remember, they kind of even had him share the spotlight with the white dude in a product that you're going to make multiple iterations of this said thing. But it's like we'll take Final Fantasy for instance. Final Fantasy is always basically going to make um like games all the time. They're constantly going to be making that. It wouldn't hurt if they did make a black lead character in, like, say, Final Fantasy 17. Because you're going to make Final Fantasy 18, 19, 20, where you could have however many white leaders in the game. And then not have this black person be just a stereotype. I mean, it's real easy to do. All you have to do is give them the same story you would give any other character. You're just changing the hue of the character. Like, he could still be like, we'll say like Cloud was a mercenary and the whole story about Cloud, but it was like, okay, he was black, like he was, a black character, but he would have the same story. Like, you don't have to blacken it up just because you're going to make him black. Like, you don't have to make him like from the hood and be like yo 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 and all these like old 90s stereotypes. You could just have that person just be like Cloud. He could be moody. He could be like, black people ain't moody. I mean, it's just like with Zaz in 13. Like, he had an afro and he had a bird in it like a nest. And then his weapons had to be guns because he was black. Or like Barrett. Even though I feel a certain way about Barrett. First of all, he wasn't even my favorite character. Sid Highwind was. But I mean, the whole gun arm, it was like, but we rocked with it. And then it was just when we was reading it, we was reading it as ourselves. Like, we wasn't putting, and even though I know he was supposed to be Mr. T from the A-Team, a lot of people, like younger people, don't know who he was modeled after. But since you're remaking this, because some like the whispers and the whole all this other stuff that wasn't in the original game. So since you're remaking this, you could have completely remade how he was voiced. He could have been like Dennis Haysbert in them like insurance commercials. He could have just had a deep voice. He didn't have to be like this whole 70s, 80s stereotype. And it was like Cloud kept sunning him all the time. I'm looking at Red 13, how he like slapped his tail, like the fire on his tail slapped Barrett's hand. I'm like, when was Red 13 ever like that? When was he ever antagonistic to Barrett? And it's just like no, like it's just like however we felt about him then in the 90s. For me, it's a lot worse than it is now because you basically turned him into a stereotype, and you got all this, people are looking at race relations different. People kind of going to look at this like, damn, like, did you have to make him worse? So it's just like, it's just like the whole thing with the whole, like I said, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to make my own shit, because it was like I was never going to see the stories that these white creators was going to do. I always wanted to make my own game, but it was like thinking it was so far-fetched that how would I ever get into the video game industry? Like, you gotta like learn trigonometry and calculus and shit like that. I didn't think it was like a obtainable dream, like what I'm basically doing now. And up until last year, like last year, I was like, just living my life basically until like my friend Sean, he was like, look at this. And that's what led me on the path. Like, damn, you could do this from home. And that's how the whole thing started. So, like, when you constantly keep seeing these negative images about people that look like you, it's disheartening. And what dude doesn't realize is just put yourself in other people's shoes of how this would look if you constantly keep seeing, like, you don't see any representation of people that look like you, but then when you do, they're getting killed. So it's almost like, how you supposed to take that? Again, like, I mean, a lot of people don't know how to write movie scripts or how to get into the video game industry like that. You know what I'm saying? So all this stuff is oblivious to a lot of black people because it's like I said, it's like a dream or like something that just couldn't be obtained. You gotta like struggle hard to like get involved in this or know this, or black people don't know a guy type thing. So it's just like, you know, like the possibilities is just like mad crazy, or like it's like an immediate thing to try to get out of the neighborhood. Like I don't have time to learn calculus. I gotta, you know, I gotta hustle and get on my grind to like do something that could get me out of this situation now, instead of investing years into to getting out later. So, you know, like it was just like October 13th. Some dude got shot literally across the street from me. Literally, not just saying like, oh, just in my neighborhood, or no, he literally got shot across the street. Not even on the side of my house across the street. No, directly across the street from my shit. Black people, not saying all. I'm not saying all before people start using it and running with it. But it's just like black people have other things to worry about than like other stuff that may or may not work in the material real world. And it just doesn't seem obtainable to begin with, because nobody's putting it in anybody's ear. So when you basically have to rely on, like, I don't know, like a Sony or just anybody to make like a black character that looks like them, you know, that's like almost like far and few between. And then even with that, then maybe, because okay, like growing up, because the whole thing about, you know, black people not a monolith and all this is like 100% true. I mean, no one person thinks alike, but using all these stereotypes and like that you see on TV, black people like being black, obviously, but seeing it how it was growing up to how it is now. Black people are more into different shit than it was in the 90s. Back in the day, you talked about comic books or video games. Like I remember my best friend's brother, Raymond, and I remember his friend Creamy, they called him Creamy. He came downstairs and was like, basically, what y'all playing? And we was playing Final Fantasy VII. And I was like, I remember I was at the Golden Saucer. And I was like saying something like, oh, this is cool. And he was basically looking like, yeah, okay. Now, if this was now, oh, he probably would have been totally into the shit. Like, oh, shit, I heard about Final Fantasy, son. And would have been on a whole different thing. It's just like me in particular, like me growing up. Like I said, I grew up listening to the group that I remember listening to was the Beatles. My mom said I listened to I used to like the Beastie Boys. You Gotta Fight for Your Right to Party. I don't remember that. And then, but I remember seeing Tina Turner and like Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome or some shit like that. But I was listening to the Beatles. I listened to like Busta Rhymes and DMX and just all these, like, you know, hip hop in the 90s, the golden age of rap music. But then in 99, no, it was before that. I remember I had a friend, his name was Jeremy Jacobowski. And he had the song on. It was called it was Corn and it was Twist. the song that he was like, I was like, what the fuck is this? And so he was like, oh, this is corn. And I was like, yo, what? And I've been listening to them ever since. And there's like the Limp Bizkits and all this stuff. So like as an older person, even hearing like new rap now is like I'm listening to like indie Tronica now. Like Empire, what's it called? Empire of on the Sun, I think. Or like Toya Umura or something like that. Like I'm listening to that now for the most part. I'm not saying like I'm not saying like I don't listen to rap music now, but it's just like musical tastes have changed. But the Empire of the Sun, what is it? You're walking on a dream. Like that's the shit right there. But but it's like you will find other black people like listening to the same thing. So it's like or something similar to it, or just not like the norm of what white people think black people are listening to. So you got like if you start adding other black people in these type of fields, it opens the scope of having like not only a diverse like an array of people around you that could just tell you like that's racially insensitive or whatever the case is, but it's like whatever story that you have just won't be bland because it's being told by the same group of people that have similar experiences. It's like it's just basically how like the whole old trope of like white people making unseasoned food. Like you add some spice to that shit, it's gonna taste different. Instead of just having the same thing over and over again, like I said, by the same group of people that live somewhat experienced lives of like, they came off from well off places, or this is what this type of person is like. I come in there, yo, like son, fuck the cracker, and I'm here and I'm braggadocious, but then have this like only good to make the white leader look good, or he's there to sacrifice himself for white people. It's kind of like, no, what is that? Like I have white characters, and they're not like, oh, party hardy dude, like totally tubular. Like what white people still sound like that unless you on the beach, and even still, like I wouldn't like. I have a white character. Like I got multiple white characters in my game, and none of them act the same, and none of them are like have like this like the lone white dude is going to die now. Like it's like what the fuck is that? Cause I had white friends growing up. Hence I talked about Jeremy Jacobowski, but knowing the dude, I mean I haven't seen him since like what 98, but I remember we went to kindergarten together. He was crazy, but nobody looked at him like this the white boy over here type. I don't even like using that phrase, but nobody was getting on him like that. He was just Jeremy. He was just me and Joshua went to his house. We played one of the Star Wars games. What was it, Dash Windu? Or, no, the one on Nintendo 64. And we played that. We went over his house, played Mortal Kombat Anthology, I think. The one with Sub Zero. He was a cool dude. Corey. I remember me, Daniel, and a couple of other people went in his house. He invited us in. We didn't break into his house and rape his mother and all this bullshit. But we played Streets of Rage. I mean, Nick. That's where I played Final Fantasy at. I remember seeing Shiva, and he was at what was the Badlands or the Wastelands or something prison. When that dude follows you all over the place, and I was like, what is this game? And he was kind of like, but you know what I'm saying? Like he was like, this is Final Fantasy 7. It was like, damn, whoa, what is this? And then me and Joshua played it and been hooked ever since. So it's not like, then our friend Steve, which is he became questionable later, but Steve was cool. I mean, nobody put no extra shit on him like that. He was cool. We hung out. He lived around my neighborhood. We lived like when I moved later into another suburb that was close to the other suburb I used to live in. But he was a cool dude. So it's like this whole thing about black people having to talk when they encounter police. My mom never gave me that talk. I'm not afraid of the police. My mom had to get in a police face. When was it? 91? 90 and 91? She had to get in his face because the man was accusing me of setting off his car alarm. And she was there the whole time looking, because this whole story was this. I had a next door neighbor. His name was Mike. Mike was biracial, but he had curly hair, so he could be a little Jewish or something. But he was biracial. He could have passed for white in most lights. And we was playing ball in kind of like between our house, like in my driveway, but he was on his house and I was near mine, but in the driveway kind of. My mom was watching. We had a black lab, and the cop parked his car in front of Mike's house. But he went over across the street because they had some domestic violence dispute. And so we was playing ball. His car alarm went off, but nothing touched his car because we was on our respective side. And so he came to me, the cop was like, why you set off my car alarm? I'm a kid. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like, I didn't say that, but, I was, come on, man, go down. I was looking like, I didn't do anything. So my mom came out and was like, these boys didn't touch your car. Like, she came outside to walk to the cop, no fear. Was like, these boys didn't set your car alarm off. I was watching the whole time. And all he had to do was say, oh, and he just went about his business. Nobody feared getting killed by the cops. Nobody said, when you interact with cops, say yes, sir, no, sir. I mean, nobody said that to me. So, when people hear the notion of like black people giving their children to talk, I'm like, where was that at? You see what I'm saying? So all these little things that's going on, it's like all people don't act and think the same. But when you see, going back to like the whole thing about video games, when you do see some people that look like you, it's good to see that. Because you, on the other hand, never had this experience where video games or movies did not cater to you. So to have this sarcastic remark, or these sarcastic remarks like I don't think these companies really care about who's black and who's white, and all this other shit, you're just missing the point, dude. You're completely missing the point. I'm like, this had nothing to do, like I said, of course, of course what they were saying was kind of extra. Like, you think you deserve this shit just because, like, because you're black and you need this, and if anybody doesn't give it to you, oh, you just are automatic racist. It's like, that's like kind of like taking it too far. But what they're saying though has a lot of weight and gravity to it, because you don't see people that look like them or me in these things. Like, I'm not a big dude like on these platforms. Nobody's watching my shit. But I recognize, if I was ever discovered to the point where people knew who I was and was like, because I'm not like a nerd dude. I'm not like, I don't have the stereotypical glasses or like Steve Urkel or just like on some nerd shit. I'm more of a chameleon. I could just blend in and spit game with whoever I'm talking to. But so it's just like Flossie Carter that does tech reviews. Now, tech reviews is like for like nerds. You thinking like the old stereotypical type, like the pocket protector type. Now people don't do that no more. They look like every average everyday person. So then if you do have somebody that comes in that looks like Marcus Brownlee, I think I'm pronouncing his last name right, that's as far as it goes, because he's just a non-threatening looking black person to black people. Maybe the white people, just because he's black, he just might be threatening by default. But he's not threatening. Flossie Carter, on the other hand, not saying he's like, look at him. He got tattoos all over himself. That would be the last dude to be doing that you would think do a tech review. But the fact that he's got these, he's this big muscular dude, but he knows his shit. Usually somebody like that would have a pit bull, Rottweiler, or something. He got a cat. And everybody likes Xerxes. I like cats. You see what I'm saying? But when people see his video being black and not being like a stereotype of what you should look like, maybe some like dudes down the street be like, yo man, I might fuck with the cell phone too. Or I might get into this shit because these computers, they suck. The gigahertz, what the fuck is up with that? And nobody would look at him crazy and be like, oh, you into that nerd shit? Because all the people that's now are using computers. Like I said, back in the day, comic books and shit, no. Now, damn near everybody's talking about it. So like somebody that looking like Flossie opens the door to break down those norms. Like whenever I get discovered or people know about me like that, would be like, bro, Gito is not a nerd dude, but he's doing what considered nerds would do. Because this stuff is like, connecting these nodes, even though I'm keep doing the same thing, because it's pretty much like texture images, and you connect it to the BSDF and all this. Anyway, it opens the door for people to get involved in certain spaces where they thought was not obtainable. Again, when you have like Miles Morales and all these other black characters, and you have like black female game reviewers and all this shit, it opens the door. But G failed to realize it, and just like, I got a YouTube channel, so I'm going to talk about, like, basically make fun of them because what they're saying is ridiculous, but not seeing the underlying message of what they're saying. And it's just like, that's just how the shit is. It's just like Barack Obama. I was watching an interview of Barack. If anybody remembers the old show Martin, Cole, one of the characters, Cole, was like talking about something. He was like, they ain't gonna get a black man that much power. And it was always this notion that black people could never become president of the United States. But now, Barack Obama did. Nobody could say that now. because he's intelligent. He went to like what, 2 Ivy League schools. Michelle Obama like basically went to 2 Ivy League schools, if I remember. It blows open the door. Like nobody can say like, oh, nobody could be, no black person can become president now, because he kicked down the door and was like, and now we got Kamala Harris, despite how they feel like where they're not like FBA or ADOS or nothing, but they're still black identified to a certain degree. Some people argue about Kamala Harris. She keep going back to Indian and black, but it's like the world sees them as a black man in Barack Obama. Kamala Harris is a black woman. Like I said, despite how you feel like, oh, Barack didn't give us reparations and Kamala ain't gonna do nothing, but it's, even though I hear exactly what they're saying and I agree a lot of what they say about that, but it looks good on paper to see that, to give other people inspiration to want to do what they did. It's not obtainable no more. It'll just be like, I failed because I didn't put in the work type thing. And like I said, that's just the get down of the whole like argument is. But again, dude failed to realize that. Like I said, when I come into the shit, I know what people gonna say. I know I have a good idea of what was going to be said. You know, with all the stuff I'm doing, it's just like I'm an anomaly or an outlier or something. But still, it still gives that person that's seeing this, like if I could split myself in two, or like go back in time, or my past self when I was young saw this shit, oh, it would have been a whole different story. It would have been like, yo, I could do that too. Especially how I grew up. I wouldn't even have believed that I would be doing this shit. You see what I'm saying? Like it'll just be a whole different, it would just be a whole different dynamic if I ended up seeing myself pulling this. Cause I mean, cause even at the time, I'm looking at um like beating Sonic and you know, a lot of these old Sega games, and seeing all the credits of damn near everybody was Japanese. So you had to be Japanese to get it in like that, right? You know what I mean? So so somebody, a black person in something like this would be ridiculous. It'd be like, damn. But like I said, dude, and then he wanted to be a punk, and like from what I see, he took the video down. Cause what he was saying was just, he was just completely dismissing everything these two ladies were saying. You know, I know of course you gotta give your product like oh, like you had to like you wouldn't give your product to somebody like me. Cause like I said, I'm not like a big creator on any of this shit. But again, I recognize the power in seeing somebody looking like you on doing some big shit like this. Because that goes a long way. And when you never grew up like seeing you without, and then hearing somebody that doesn't have the shit, you can be like, well, why are you complaining about it? Type dismissive attitude. So it's like stuff like that. So I mean, what he was saying was real crazy. Oh, see, damn, that's crazy as hell. All my shit is turning purple. That's crazy as hell. I mean, fuck it. I mean, hold up. I'm gonna delete this file. I'm gonna delete this whole thing and start over. Because actually, this is the first time I'm doing texture nodes. And not only I messed up, but but I'm not, first of all, I was thinking about trying to get the sheen, like that shininess out the floor. But hold up. But on one hand, no. I mean, it's not a problem restarting this over again. I only did like a few like textures, but like this, like I said, this is the first time I'm doing it, and I'm like, my shit turned purple because I moved them over to another folder after I was done with them. But it's just like, it's not a problem. Yeah, it's not a problem. Let me go into the whatchamacallit, the delete. I got to delete this. But yeah, that's like I said, that's why I got into this in the first place, or always wanted to be in this. And then even like with me, there's some things about this. There's some stuff about this I do not know. Like even the node editor is confusing, but at least like I said, like learning this is like fun to me though. But then if some like other like black kid sees this shit and they be like, oh, if he can do it, I can do it too. And I would be like, yes, you can. Cause like I said, how I grew up, I mean, I grew up in the suburbs, so it wasn't like I couldn't think of, like I said earlier, like, you know, I'm thinking about other stuff about like my survival and thinking about some extra shit. But it's just how I grew up, like in the suburb, like academically. I would have never thought I would have been doing some shit like this. You know what I'm saying? So this is like just awesome seeing, like, damn, I'm actually pulling this off type. But like I said, that video was so crazy. That video was super crazy. I mean, just 100% dismissive. See, and then it's changing the subject. It's like I'm looking at, no, it's not popping up, but I just popped up my folder with all my materials that I got, and I'm like, I want to categorize them like with wood floors, then the stucco, stone granites, um, white fabric, leather, plaid. Like, I don't want all my shit to be in the same place. And I'm like, I'm trying to almost figure out how to categorize this. So I'm thinking about cutting this off and then looking it up and then coming back on. So basically, I'm gonna have two videos right now, but I'm serious. And then I was like, I want to make up for yesterday because I didn't make a video yesterday. But like, so the whole thing with the materials turning purple is not that I really did something wrong. It's just I moved those files into another folder, and then the system lost it, and it is like it turned purple. So, but like I said, I'm not even worried about that because I didn't do that many, and it's like, pretty simple to pop them in. Like I said, the only problem that I had was the floors was too shiny. And it's like trying to figure out what nose to get rid of that is basically what I need to figure out. But like the whole floor material, I mean, it looked good. So I mean, that's no issue. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna quit this and come back like I'm normally scheduled time at 10. But like I said, I'll get back to what I was talking about later. Peace.